Hello and welcome to Premier League Primetime. And I'm here with a very good friend of mine, Mr. Ian. How are you doing?
I am doing absolutely incredible, Davis. Thank you for asking.
It's been a long time coming. And as you've seen in the previous two shows, we'll be taking a look at Arsenal and Liverpool, and now Tottenham Hotspur. What more can I say about the scene that I haven't said already? It's been would it be right to say that this team has been nothing but a roller coaster all season?
Roller coaster could even be an understatement for everything, all the emotions I went through, at least this season.
Yeah. You wanted to go through a couple of segments just looking back on the season, and to start off, we have a group of players here. That has been generated not by me, but by the producers. And Let's just go right through them, and let's start off with Hugo Lloris. It'd be an understatement to say he's been a brilliant servant to the club. World Cup winner, has got all the experience of that you need in a goalkeeper. He's I think he's 34 years of age, and he's just seems more not only more injury prone but more mistake prone. It seems like he might be on his way out potentially. But what would you do with Hugo Lloris? Would you keep him on that last year of his contract, or would you say thank you for everything, but see you later?
Well, I mean, he's slowly falling off as anyone does with age normally. But I mean, this was the very first year where his mistakes were more evident, I'd say. So I would say, well, he should stay. He's our captain. I do not want him gone. But I would say at least give him another year. And then if he's as mistake prone as he was this year, then questions could start to arise. But Donnarumma as a free agent does look good, but I doubt he would come. So
Yeah. Um, I mean, if a chance of someone like a Donnarumma came up, and I remember I was talking to some, I think at school a couple weeks ago, that Gianluigi Donnarumma would be the perfect signing. He's young, he's all the potential in the world, and he wouldn't cost a penny. Um, he's still so young. I feel like that guy's been young forever, Gianluigi Donnarumma, but he's such a fantastic talent, isn't he? For AC Milan, but he looks like he'll be on his way out. But You would say to keep Hugo Lloris for that last year of his contract?
I would say at least keep him for one more year and then decide what we do for then because he'd be 35 and then we wouldn't get too much from anyways. So keep him till the end of the
And
contract
he would
for
walk
sure.
away on a free anyways
Yeah,
at the end of the
exactly.
season.
If he wants
So
to go back to France or whatever he wants to do, exactly.
yeah. Next we have Davidson Sanchez. A record signing from Ajax was did hold for a little bit of time the title of being Tottenham's most expensive signing. I think they signed him for about 42 million pounds. I think
Something around there, yeah.
Davidson Sanchez came in, high ceiling, high amount of potential from Ajax, and he had a very good season there. Has come in. He's been a good servant to the club, but rumors are suggesting that he is on his way out, and they're looking to maybe cash in and get an upgrade. What are your thoughts on Davinson Sanchez? Would you keep him around, or would you cash in?
Well, he certainly hasn't lived up to his price tag of 40 mil. So I think keeping him and continuing to play him does leave that risk of him even lowering his value even more and him going up with another year of age, of course. So, I mean, I feel like it'd be best to try and find a suitor for him where the way he's at now, because he certainly did not have a good season. So, as pretty much the entire defense didn't. So, I think there's needs to be some change somewhere, and I think it probably starts with getting as much money as we can from someone like Sanchez.
All right. Next we have Eric Dyer. I remember at the beginning of the season, this guy was brilliant, and it was actually those two who beat a certain team 6-1, who I at the moment am just not happy with in any way, shape, or form. So we're just gonna not talk about how I had a very bad evening back on Wednesday. Um, he's been up and down, but he's mainly just been poor. He's been in and around for a while. Um, um, and Ryan Mason has been picking him all the time, almost every game. But it just doesn't seem like he's improving. Would you keep him around?
Well, I don't necessarily know the price tag of him exactly, like what teams would be interested in off the top of my head. But if we find a good suitor, we'll give a solid price tag for him. I think we should. But he would be a solid like third, fourth center back, or go back to center defensive mid, whatever he wants to do at this point, because I have honestly no clue. But he should not be our starting center back. So at best, he'd be our number 3 rotations against like the weaker Prem teams or cup games.
All right. Next we have Ben Davies. Another man who'd say it's an understatement to say he's been a valiant, brilliant servant to the club. Although Mr. Big Man Sergio Reguilon has come in and he's definitely cemented that starting left back place. Hasn't been great in the past 3, 4, 5 games. But it's still very clear that Ben Davies is looking as if he's a second choice or just as a depth option. Would you cash in? Would you cash in and look to upgrade, or would you keep him around?
Well, I mean, we have the upgrade in Region, so I mean, there wouldn't be really too much to upgrade from that position exactly. But because if I remember correctly, Madrid has that buyback clause, and if we do sell Davies, we would have, I think we would have just youth players like Sessegnon, I believe, playing left back as our, who would become our number 1, which would not leave us in the best situation. And I do think Davies still has potential. So I think,
I mean, he's not young, exactly.
yeah. So I mean, I think he still could. I don't know if he's full on Premier League everyday starter, but I think he's still could be a crucial part of the team. So I wouldn't want to get rid of him now. At least wait until we find out like what's happening with Region. Because if he's stays full time, then we wouldn't need someone like Davies as much. Someone like who's a little bit worse to play in the cup games or stuff like that for us. So I think just wait a little bit and see how that goes.
Right, yeah, fair enough. I mean, you can't get rid of everybody. It's important to have squad players because injuries come in and around. And yeah, fair enough. I see your point there. But maybe the same could not be said about Harry Winks. And just like Eric Dier, at points during the season, he would be in Mourinho's starting 11. Then he'd be dropped. Then he'd be in. Some games he would not even be on the bench. Some games he'd start, play 90 minutes, come off the bench. Under Ryan Mason, I mean, this guy's played almost every minute. Hasn't had the greatest of seasons. Would you keep Harry Winks around, or would you cash in?
I mean, I think it really depends if we do bring in another midfielder this transfer window, because at least for me personally, I do like Winks a lot as a player. I think he has a lot of potential. He's still young. He's homegrown. So if anything, we'd only be making money off him, which is always good. But I do think he could cement a role in, if not the starting 11, at least the bench permanently. But I think it also depends on who we're bringing as new manager. So it's more of like a personal thing, but I would want to keep him for sure. But I know he wants to play more, so maybe a loan or something like that could be good.
Okay. Next we have Eric Lamela. He's been highly tipped to leave Tottenham this summer. He's turned more or less into a squad player. But that name Eric Lamela just does not give me fond memories in any way, shape, or form, especially in what a certain someone did to Tony Martial. I mean, I mean, and speaking of Martial, I think that moment just kind of just screwed his confidence for the season, and I think that's just freaking started. So thanks a lot to Lamela for that one. But He'd be used at times by Mourinho. He'd start some games. Mourinho saw him as a very important squad player, not really being used really at all by Ryan Mason. What would you do with Eric Lamela? Would you keep him around, or would you perhaps bring in a youngster to fulfill that role of a squad player and have that shithousery about him?
Well, I do like him as a player. I do think he brings that edge to him that's important in soccer. So, I mean, I do like him at least coming off the bench, starting certain games, depending on like who the matchup is and stuff like that. But I think more of like an overall thing, which we'll talk about when we get to both Bale and Moura, is just the issues on both the left and right wing have been astronomical, especially being seen this year. So there needs to be changes there. At least bring in someone who can start most games for us competently. But I do agree Lamela is getting up there in age. But I know he does enjoy Tottenham, so I wouldn't mind him staying. But I could see him going for a small amount of money, though.
All right. Next we have Moussa Sissoko, and every time I see Moussa Sissoko, every time I see Sissoko, Aurier, and Ndombele on the pitch, like I start thinking of a remake or a remix of the Friends theme song. I'll be there for you, Sissoko, Aurier, and Tanguy. I swear, every time I see Sissoko play, I feel like Mourinho wants those three to play literally
Just for the
just for the
song.
sake to just have those three just like do their dance moves together when they score whatnot. Like I but Sissoko came in for 35 million pounds from Newcastle. Didn't look anywhere near 35 million pound player when he first came in. Then he started to justify it, and then like so many other players in this list, he's been in and out of Mourinho's first team. Because his midfield's so inconsistent. But it just seems that he's not been really preferred all that much under Ryan Mason. Hasn't really kicked on much this season. What would you do with Moussa Sissoko? Would you keep him around, or would you try and get some money for him?
I think it's best to try and get money for him because, like I said, with wings, we do need that other midfielder, defensive midfielder, to be really figured out in general. Because Sissoko, as you kind of said it, you just said it perfectly, really. Between like he was bad at first, then started getting good, and then this season just hasn't been good and hasn't found a place starting 11. So someone to play along Højbjerg is important, and I don't think Sissoko can be that guy. At least proven under Mourinho, but whoever the new manager is, we will see. But I do think we probably should sell him because he is getting older too. So his value has dropped tremendously, really,
Yeah,
based on age and last season.
yeah, you make a very good point. I mean, Sissoko's not getting any younger. Maybe it'd be best for Tottenham to cash in, maybe find someone new. Anyways, next, into one of the most disappointing figures of the season, not due to his own fault, really, Dele Alli. He was more or less sidelined by Jose Mourinho. As Jose usually does, he'll find someone in whatever team that he doesn't like or has a problem with. Won't really say it, as it is to the press or media, and you won't see them play for ages. Dele Alli was a victim of that. Ryan Mason comes in. Dele Alli's back into the starting lineup. He's playing almost 90 minutes every game. I know you're absolutely in love with Dele Alli's new haircut. I know that's what you wanted when you were telling me you went to the barbershop just the other day. Dele Alli, it's kind of a weird one. He almost went to PSG in January to reunite with Pochettino. Um, this is kind of a tricky one. What would you do with Dele Alli? Would you keep him around, or would you sell him for some money? And you could probably get some very good money if you did sell.
Yeah, like you said, I think we could get a very solid amount to really help reshape our midfield if he's not going to be a part of it. But like seeing what he did under Pochettino was amazing. I mean, he was one of the main contributors that got us to that Champions League final. But then seeing him under Mourinho, I think there was also a little bit of him just not being able to adjust fully under him, which did spark all the January transfer rumors and all that. But I mean, I think it really all depends who the next manager is with Dele, because I think if he, whether it is Pochettino, whoever it is, if he gets brought in and like Dele clicks with him, they like just I don't know, they just start bonding and like just click, and he starts playing well again, like as he was in 2016, 2017, 2018. So then he should stay. But I think if he doesn't click under the new manager, then we should sell him as much as we can, because he's still on like 20 something, like 4 or 5, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and you said it there brilliantly, Ian. I mean, I'd say the same. I mean, we all know the talent this guy has at his feet. It's unquestionable that he has so much talent. But I think it just depends on, as you said, what manager, what system. I mean, with Dele Alli, you could almost look at it as a win-win. If you decide to keep, you're keeping a very good player. If you decide to sell, you could get some decent money for him. Gareth Bale came in on loan from Real Madrid. Tottenham fans, including Andre himself, was very, very excited when Bale back did happen. And kind of, not as severely as Dele Alli, but under Jose Mourinho, would find himself on the bench more times than none. Did score some important goals, came off the bench. Sometimes he won't even be in the squad under Mourinho. Ryan Mason comes in, he's back in the side, playing almost 90 minutes a game, looks more not improved, but a more free flowing, confident Gareth Bale. As far as I know, there was no option to sign him permanently, but I think there may have been an option to extend the loan. If there was that option, would you trigger that option to extend his loan, or would you even try and enter negotiations with Real Madrid to try and sign him permanently?
To sign him permanently, I think it would all depend based on the price. Because if it's too much, then there's no point, because he is getting pretty old and out of his prime.
31.
31, yeah. So he only probably has like 2 or 3 potential really good seasons left, which could be good for us because of where we are right now. But we shouldn't spend too much money on Gareth Bale if we have the option to, because like you said, he didn't get to play much under Jose. But then when he did play, at least I thought he played pretty well most of the time. So I think if he's given the chance to play and be himself and play the way he does, kind of like what we saw against Leicester in the last game, I think he could be a solid player for us.
I agree with that. Yeah,
and really lock down the right side of the midfield for us.
Yeah, and for me personally, I could see. I could see it's going 2 ways for me. One way is that Gareth Bale comes back and he has a very, very good, and he has a very, very, very good season with Tottenham, and it's a bargain. Or he comes back and it's just back to the same old Gareth Bale that we've seen at Real Madrid under Zidane. Just no motivation, nothing. So, I could see this going either way. But yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, Ian. On to the final player, Lucas Moura. Again, in and out of the squad, but more times in the squad than I have to say than out of the squad. More times in than out under Mourinho. Was deployed on the wings. But then he was mainly deployed at the 10, which I think he was at his best. Then used sparingly by Ryan Mason. What would you do with Lucas Moura?
I would 100% keep Lucas, because he is not only a solid bench player. I think like at least should like consistently be on the bench. He's always ready to come in whenever he needs to. like like you said, he has the utility. He could play on the wing. He could play a 10. He's there for us, and he's also just a big energy guy. Like seeing like videos and stuff like that. He's always like getting the squad up. He has really good morale, so which I think is really important to have guys like that on the bench for sure. And he does have a lot of skill, I think, still that he just hasn't been seen as much because of this past season.
Yeah. And all right. So you would keep Lucas Moura. That sums up for the first set of Tottenham players. The next segment I think is arguably looking at, Tottenham's most important player. What's next for Tottenham's best left back in the Premier League?
What's next for him? Well, after choosing not to be extended by Tottenham, I'm sure he will be probably going back to maybe a spell at like a Newcastle or maybe a Brighton, come their next left back, stay in the Prem.
Justice for Danny Rose.
Justice for Danny Rose, indeed.
And I know Tottenham fans will definitely sorely miss Danny Rose. I was absolutely brilliant last season and brilliant this season. RIP Danny Rose. No, but the two most important players, Harry Kane and Youngmin Son. In recent weeks, these two futures have been looking as if they were in doubt. Is a summer goodbye to either one of them imminent? But more specifically, and especially Harry Kane, very, very strong links with, Manchester City. And strong links that he's going to leave. Look. Before we get to, Harry Kane has been heavily flirting with it, and has been very, very much flirting with an exit. It's like as if Harry Kane is wearing a short skirt, and Manchester City is a guy that the girl is trying to impress or whatnot. It's like it's just such heavy flirtation from Harry Kane coming out with the quotes about De Bruyne. Is that a good way of putting it?
I absolutely love that analogy, Davis. You couldn't have said it any better.
What would you say? What would you say about these two? Do you think a summer goodbye to one of them or both of them is imminent, or do you think it's Daniel Levy? They're going absolutely nowhere.
I certainly don't see Son going anywhere, because from what I've heard, like he enjoys being in Tottenham. He loves the culture and everything there. I don't see him leaving unless something drastic happens. But Kane, I am concerned, but I don't think he'll leave this summer unless we get a very, very good deal from, I probably think Man City would be the one who would get him this summer, because I don't see United getting him. I see them focusing on other players. I don't see
back to CDM, please. Glazers, dude, I swear, please. All right. Anyways, as you were saying.
Yeah, I don't see Chelsea going out and getting him.
I don't know. I don't know. I think Kepa and Tam Abraham are two have been brilliant players this season. Maybe they could, fill the Tottenham starting spots, with good quality,
With our roster currently, I could. Who knows if they could? Really, they probably could. But yeah, I don't see them going all out for Harry Kane this summer, as the team would need to be, and that goes for the same with Real Madrid and PSG. Like those seem to be the top 5 clubs that he would go to. And the only one I see making a serious push, at least this summer, would be Man City.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, and I think if he leaves, I think Manchester City. Sergio Aguero is leaving, and they need a striker. Harry Kane's in his prime. He's literally, he's really putting on that short skirt for Kevin De Bruyne and Pep Guardiola, hoping that they'll make a bid. And I think, I think he'll definitely go to Manchester City. I actually predict it's going to happen this summer, regardless of who comes in. And speaking of coming and of someone coming in, when and where should Tottenham prioritize and strengthen this summer? It doesn't have to be 11 players. It's not Arsenal. We're talking about here. Tottenham have good pieces. But what would be, let's say your top 3 or 4 like signings this summer? And if you had specific names that were realistic, who would you go out and get?
Well, I would say probably our biggest need would be probably figuring out at least getting one center back. Because at least this past season, I felt Alderweireld was solid enough to where he can start, but he is getting old, so we would need a replacement for him.
Or just a partner.
Or yeah, I would say we need a partner for him for next season as our starters. And then because I don't see Sanchez doing good, and I don't see Dier doing that well either. So because I do want Rodon to grow because
both of them very good young players.
I do think yeah, I do want him to grow, but I do think we certainly do need someone to be a solid, reliable center back for us who isn't going to retire soon.
Reports are suggesting that that's still that Milan Skriniar is on Tottenham's list. Is that a guy that you would like to see coming in, partner Alderweireld, or would you like to see a different name? And if so, who?
I don't have any other names off the top of my head, but I wouldn't mind seeing him come in, especially coming from experience from Inter, like a team who's done well in Italy this past season. So having that experience come in will be really helpful, hoping to push us in Europe again next year.
Yeah. Where else would you strengthen? What was I going to say? If Harry Kane somehow goes, holes in midfield, goalkeeper. Where would you? Let's say you had enough money for another 2 top class players. Where would you? What positions would those 2 top class players be? And if you had names, as I said before, who would you bring in?
Well, I think for immediate success, like need a fixing immediately, or at least a solution immediately, I would say probably someone to match Højbjerg, play next to him.
You have Tanguy and Dembele, who's been one of the few consistent shining lights this season. He's been very good. Or would you play him in a more advanced role?
Well, he was playing, if I remember correctly, he was playing more in the 10 for us.
Yeah.
So I think someone, whether it is Ndombele playing 10 or him playing next to Højbjerg and we bring in a 10, like, I don't know, like Sabitzer from Leipzig or someone like that.
Yeah.
We just need someone to complete that triangle, whichever position of the midfield it may be.
Yeah, fair enough. Marcel Sabitzer, very good player, but I don't know at this rate if Leipzig are trying to lose any more players.
I don't think that's going to happen.
They lost their manager, and they've lost both of their best center backs to Upamecano and Conte to Bayern Munich and Liverpool, respectively. I don't know if they'd want to see another player go, but yeah, that is an option that's definitely on the realistic side. And if you had enough money to bring one more in, who would you go for?
I would say probably. It's not. I'd probably go for someone on the right wing.
A right winger. There is this random Dutch kid, called Steven Bergwijn, who came in for about £27 million in January of 2020. What would you do with him?
Well, I would say, because like I said earlier, like I was looking more like for this specific summer, focus on more of the immediate solutions than like the longer term, because I do think Bergwijn is solid and he has shown flashes of really good play, but like this season he was not very good. And I certainly think, at least going into next season, Bale is certainly above him on the depth chart, if Bale does end up staying, of course. But I think Bergwijn needs to reach another level in order to be a consistent starter for the team.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely see and agree with that. Anyways, into the next segment. Who's the next Tottenham manager going to be? I mean, spoiler. We all know. I know how much you have been loving Ryan Mason, and we all know he's going to be the number one, anyways. So, surprise, surprise. Um, who would your top five candidates to take over Tottenham be next season? There are some options out there, some decent options out there. You have Graham Potter. Graham Potter's available. Zinedine Zidane. I've been hearing rumors today that somehow Maurizio Pochettino is in talks of returning to Tottenham. Of course, you could always, pull the Manchester United move and to say, "Oh, Ryan Mason, here's the job on a full-time basis." There's Maurizio Sarri, Antonio Conte, Paulo Fonseca. Look, I'm not saying these guys are, the elite managers, but just like the best of the best that's out there. Allegri's about to rejoin Juventus.
Mhm.
Um, who else is out there? Laurent Blanc. He hasn't coached in gosh knows how long, but he's out. He's out there and available. You could always bring Kepa from Chelsea. He can, he did very well to manage that Chelsea side in the Carabao Cup final, and boss Maurizio Sarri around. So you could probably do a job for Tottenham. Who would your top three or top five candidates would be to take over Tottenham next season? Or you could have Scott Parker. That's another one that you could
Mhm.
throw in there as well.
Yeah. I do think we need someone with more experience. So having someone like Scott Parker wouldn't be, I think, ideal. I do think he is a solid manager who has a good future. I just don't think he's ideal for us at this exact moment.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
In terms, just quickly on Scott Parker. If Tottenham bring him in, I feel like that'd be very similar to. I'm not saying these two are similar in any way, shape, or form, but it would give me similar vibes when Arsenal brought in Mikel Arteta. Of course,
exactly.
Scott
Yeah.
Parker's managed before, and that's why I was saying they're not similar. But just a work in progress, someone who hasn't been managing for very long, he's still learning. An ex-player of the club who, whether he was a decent player for them. So kind of like the same kind of situations, I guess you could say, if you
Similar, yeah.
but who would your next 4-3 candidates be?
Um, I would love a reunion with Pochettino, of course.
Oh yeah, of course.
Um, Especially because he can use what he's learned. I know PSG didn't win the league this year, but they still finished second. He can use, which of course is Pochettino. Of course, didn't win the league, um, but he can use that experience he had playing with players like Mbappe, or not playing, but managing players like Mbappe and Neymar, and hopefully maybe use what he's learned in this past half season, almost full season, to hopefully turn it around here a little bit. And like, I know wasn't given a lot of time 2 seasons ago, and he was kind of just fired right when mistakes were happening and everything. So hopefully, if he does get brought back in, Levy will give him more time to figure things out.
Yeah. And just going through some of the last couple managers. Thoughts on maybe someone like a Maurizio Sarri or Paulo Fonseca, Antonio Conte. Do any of those appeal to you, or no?
I think Conte could be interesting, but I just don't see it happening because I do
Chelsea
see.
rejects number two coming into the club. I'm sure Tottenham fans would love to see that.
Mhm. I mean, I do think it would help a little bit bringing in some transfers for players like who's played under him, um, like at Inter last season. But
Well, then say welcome home to Ashley Young.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? We might need help at left back soon, but but I mean, yeah, it's a weird situation because I feel like this could have been solved a lot better, and I feel like with the way Tottenham is, it's like it's quote unquote top six, but not top six because we're always underperform. So a lot of like the top managers wouldn't want to take on that. A name that is interesting, but I highly doubt will happen would be Steven Gerrard from Rangers.
Ooh, that's interesting.
But if he would want to come over to the Premier League, but I haven't heard
I
a
don't think
rumor about that at
there's
all.
only one team that I feel like he's going to manage in the Premier League, and I think we all know what that team is going to be.
Man City, once Pep retires, yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, 100%. You know, he definitely wants to manage Man City. When you're in Klopp, please, I think Steven Gerrard's going to be lined up as Liverpool successor, 100%. I mean, I personally don't see that happening, but that's a really interesting manager that you pointed out there. And last but not least, any thoughts on potentially Zinedine Zidane, maybe, or Graham Potter of Brighton?
I prefer not Graham Potter just because I don't feel like I feel like Brighton should have gone down, and they're certainly a team that are just in a relegation team who always battle. And I don't think that he got enough out of his players last season. Like I think they were solid enough to avoid relegation, but that's also being compared to Sheffield and West Brom, who were abysmal this year.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're absolutely dreadful. And I mentioned Graham Potter, and Andre. Andre, I'm gonna call you out right now. You see, not everybody thinks that Graham Potter is the greatest manager in the Premier League because if you don't know, Andre is super pro Graham Potter, and that's like his number one choice to come to come to Tottenham, and he's saying he has this very good philosophy. He had players. I mean, he had exciting players like your Basumas, and Basuma just. Potter didn't really get the best out of Basuma. Basuma just had the talent, in my opinion. You just
Mhm.
kind of gone around and did his thing. Out of work.
Liverpool legend Adam Lallana.
Yes, yes. We can't forget about Adam Lallana. So your number one would definitely be Maurizio Pochettino if that was even
Yeah,
possible.
I would I would 100% say with 100% realistic expectations, I do think Pochettino would come back.
If
It
not
would
Pochettino, who?
uh that's tough. It would probably be Conte then.
Okay. You've
But
heard it here.
yeah.
Antonio Conte would be his number one choice to come into Tottenham if the Maurizio Pochettino talks fall
Mhm.
through.
Yeah,
And
there's just not a lot of good candidates out there as they were earlier. Like Brendan Rodgers said no to us, Julian Nagelsmann said no to us. Just which I don't blame them, but most of the really high managers don't want to manage this team, or at least be with Levy, which I don't
and
blame them. But
no, I wouldn't blame him.
yeah,
It's like working with Ed. It's like working with Woodward. I mean, I mean, I mean, if you're coming in and expecting first choice players to come in every single time, then to stay clear of Manchester United. Anyways, into the last segment of the show, and we have the top three players of the season and the top three disappointments of the season. In terms of your top three players of the season, should I already assume that the big two are on there?
oh, easily it's. I don't think
Let's flip
anyone could
first
even
and then
argue
second.
that Kane isn't one and Son isn't two.
So who would
Uh,
be three?
and that's where the thing comes in. I would say my three would 100% be Oibjerg
Yeah, yeah, that's a good shout.
because with our deal with Southampton, I think it was a great deal for both of us.
15 million pounds plus Kyle Walker-Peters, he's had a decent season with Southampton. He's been very good for them. But 15 million pounds for arguably one of the better central defensive midfielders. We know Chelsea have Conte and City have Rodri and Liverpool have Fabinho, but Mick Fred is just the best central defensive midfielder that there is in the whole Premier League. Everyone knows it. Mick Fred is just world class. I know Højbjerg isn't as good as Mick Fred, and he dreams to be, but yeah, it's a very good bit of business from Tottenham.
Yeah, for me, that was by far our best transfer, at least in recent history, I think, like probably within the last couple of years. Because I don't think anyone, unless my memory is forsaken me, I don't remember a transfer coming in and making an immediate impact like he did. Because I don't remember a single game where I was like watching, I didn't know where Højbjerg was or like what he was doing. Like he was always either involved defensively or involved offensively. He was doing something, which was pretty nice to watch, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. And into the last part of the show, your top 3 disappointments of the season. You could throw so many names into this category. But starting from number 3, in terms of the least disappointing of the 3 disappointments, who would you put there?
Least disappointing of all 3 of them, I would say, has to be Davidson Sanchez.
Okay. And who would be at your number 2 and number 1 and justify?
My number 2 would have to be Bergwijn.
Really? That's an interesting one.
And then probably the 3rd would be Doherty.
Oh, Matt Doherty. I almost forgot he even existed, Matt Doherty. But before you said him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those 3 stood out to me, and a lot of mistakes were made between the 3 of them, in my opinion.
In terms of Matt Doherty, Wolves must have. Nuno is the ultimate opportunist. He cashed in when he was playing well. He got 15 million pounds out of Matt Doherty. And I said it from the very, very first ever episode of Premier League Primetime that my one concern with Matt Doherty is going from a back 5 to a back 4.
Exactly.
Being a wing back, he's just a right back. And exactly. I said this from the very start, and my concerns came true, and my doubts came true.
Obviously.
Anything else left to say about Tottenham before we wrap up this show?
I hope Kane stays. Otherwise, the entire team is going to be relegated. Probably. I don't know.
Don't worry. If you lose Harry Kane, you'll probably get, you'll get the better player going the other way. I've been hearing Gabriel Jesus and Tammy Abraham, both have been just world class. And they're definitely more complete strikers than Harry Kane. We all know it anyways. Does that make you feel confident at all?
To be completely honest here, Gabriel Jesus doesn't seem that bad, at least compared to Tammy Abraham. No, of course he's no Kane, but he's at least proven he can score in the Premier League.
No, he's pretty. He's a pretty dynamic player, Gabriel Jesus. But certainly nowhere near Harry Kane's level.
Obviously, that's the thing. Getting that equal to Kane will be rather impossible.
Yeah. Anyways, that's it for the show. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here and you've just fallen in love with everything Ian has had to say about Tottenham and a certain prat or two, smash a like on the video and comment and you let us know what you think about Tottenham this season, everything that we've covered. And take a look at our other our other databases on our other pages and wherever you're watching this in the world. Have a great day / evening